Greetings, everyone. I went through one of my junk boxes of stuff and I just wanted to share some fun things. I don't know why I've held on to some of these things. In fact, it's kind of strange to see these things again. Um, Cell phones over the years have kind of changed and they've become more, I don't know, pocket computers, but still kind of neat. Some of the designs that you might see. This one is actually pretty neat. If it wasn't for like the 1.3 megapixel camera, I could see this still being kind of useful. I have like a first generation BlackBerry, which I don't know where it is right now, but it's one of those that has like the orange scrolling wheel. Kind of interesting. Uh, you know, this stuff's going back over 20 years. You imagine this beam me up kind of Scotty like thing, uh, as well as this. You could play Snake on it, which is one of those built in games that you could have with it. So I'm just going to set those aside for a moment. I think this might have had a built in antenna that you could expand out or whatever. So, as part of the collection of Lego figurines that I have at my house, I have this, which is my good buddy Kermit. And so that's going to be the subject of sorts, along with this. I'm just going to doodle something with that and Kermit, I think. See what we can come up with. I have to say, as a kid, I really have a great appreciation for Jim Henson. It was mainly because he could do things that seemed like magic to me. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on that, I think, too. If it'll let me. Yeah. A person holding a puppet could say pretty much anything they wanted to you. And, you would look at the puppet and you would blame the puppet for whatever terrible thing was said to you. And the puppeteer could just be free and clear. I always found that to be kind of fascinating. I mean, there's people that have built careers on that. But Jim Henson was a little bit different, of course. He didn't have that sort of cruelty to him. And if you watch some of the old Sesame Street, I guess you could see it in clips where he would interview children, and the children sometimes would say kind of funny things to him. He'd, on the spot, be able to have these incredible little conversations that would, I don't know, it seemed kind of funny. He would kind of bring them back on board with whatever he was doing. And yeah, it was a fun learning experience, and you would giggle along with whatever was going on. But puppets to me are sort of this suspension of belief in a way, live animation type thing. It's like magic. And an animate object is given a voice, and you totally go along with whatever's going on. And I always found that kind of funny about puppets. So, as I said, I'm going to kind of use this to some degree. Because why not? Now, it's fun to think about these things. What was kind of important to you as a kid, how you learned. What could you learn from Kermit? Kermit the Frog. You learned a lot. You learned a little bit about patience, of course. And as you got older, you realized that there was another show that was not like Sesame Street, The Muppet Show. And that show was pretty neat. Much like the, Sesame Street, there would be really famous guests could show up and they would interact or sing during some sort of a stage production. And if you've seen one of my other videos, or a series of other videos where I did sort of, I guess you could say a tribute to Batman and Robin. No, well, Batman and Robin, but with the Joker as well, using those two guys who would sit up in the balcony and basically make fun of the show. So anyway, you could check that out. It's kind of an interesting concept thing that I had done. Now let's see if we back this out a little bit. Hopefully things don't get too far out of hand with this little doodle. I'm not really sure where certain elements of Kermit's form comes from. Like that collar isn't a natural thing for frogs. I suspect in some weird way, part of what makes up his body is kind of like a strange eggplant. Does that make sense? I don't know. We'll not get too far into trying to figure out why or what's going on. But I've always been a fan of Kermit. Something like that, right? I made a little bit of a knee here. A little bit of an ankle, how about that? I don't know. That's where I'm at with that, I guess. I suppose I could have changed his body just a little bit. If I left him kind of a forearm sort of shape. Maybe wider feet would have been a little bit better. But I'm having him sitting down on a chair or a bench. close out the back of that just a little bit. Go a little higher over here. Concept-wise, something like that. I know for many people, Jim Henson was such a wonderful part of their childhood. And you know, he still is a part of people's childhood even today. I don't know what is going on with Sesame Street and whether or not, you know, it's still being funded as part of like PBS. I know Disney, of course, owns the Muppets, or Jim Henson's workshop especially. So I don't really know what's coming down the pipeline, I suppose, for new projects in the future. I know there were a grouping of new movies. And yeah, beyond that, though, I don't really know what else is going on with the Muppets. So, well, anyway, that's a quick doodle of Kermit. Or at least what I have based on that and this. So, about 15 minutes. Maybe I'll use the bunny pen here and I'll just put a little green on the outside here so that you can kind of draw that conclusion that Kermit is green. You don't have to fill it all in. Your eye will fill in those little gaps. Good old bunny pen. But yeah, cell phones have changed a lot over the years. There was, you know, back in the earliest versions of them, they were basically bricks, and you hear people talking about that they were these huge things, and most people only really had them for their cars, the early cell phones. They were like giant walkie-talkies, basically. So outside of a landline, communications for portable reasons were kind of difficult. And, you know, there weren't really like cell towers. Some of the earliest forms of communication wirelessly, from my understanding, was microwave. You wouldn't really want to have microwave stuff constantly going through your body. It'd be kind of spooky after a while. Well, I think that's it for now. About 16 minutes. Nope, just doodling. Let's just for fun. Take care of his tongue. Right up by the top of his head. Just under his eyes. Okay, folks. I think that's all for now. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and that, yeah, come back again for some more doodling just for fun. And if you have any fun ideas, you can let me know, and that's fine too. So we'll see you again at some point in the future. Ciao for now.